Good afternoon. I believe it's my pleasure to be the last presentation of the day. So I hope to pull you through and see if I can keep you off the drinks. Well, we still have a panel discussion after this, so don't get your hopes up too much. But it's the last presentation. So what I wanted to do today is refer back to the first presentation of Karen van Kluisen. If you managed to catch that presentation, she mentioned that a city's mobility strategy should be integral and holistic. And part of the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, the SUMP, you should also have a SALP, which is a bit of an odd word, but it is an acronym for Sustainable Urban Logistics Plan. And that's what I wanted to discuss with you today, what our SALP is. We call it differently. We don't call it a SALP, but we call it a Sustainable Urban Action Plan. And part of that action plan is the usage of light electric vehicles and cargo bikes. So I will take you through that plan. My role at the City of Utrecht is I'm the team leader of urban logistics. We are a team of 8 people, which is a bit more than a few years ago, because we noticed that we've been quite successful in reducing the number of cars in the city, so private cars. But actually the relative amount of logistics has therefore increased. So if we don't do the same with logistics and make that more efficient, then we'll probably have a city in a couple of years that is filled with HDVs and vans, and that is no longer our ambition. So we want to have more human scale type of logistics, vehicle-free logistics, and we're trying to make that transition happen. Well, why is that? Of course, because we want to have a livable city, but we're also in a quite unique situation where the whole city center of Utrecht is basically one big inland port. So what you see here on this picture is the Oude Gracht. And have you been to the city center already? Then you probably can't have missed this Oude Gracht. Well, next time you're there, take another look, because it's actually a 5-kilometer long port with wharves and cellars, wharf cellars. It's UNESCO World Heritage Site. We are very proud of it, and we're making a lot of use from it. Like, it has restaurants and dwellings and businesses making use of all those nice wharf cellars. But in the past, they were used for logistics. And as you can see on the picture there, the inbound logistics was done by boat. And then there was temporary storage in the wharf cellars. And then the last mile or the next mile was done with horse and carriage. So that's the HGV of yesteryear, right? But the roads that are covering these wharf cellars, they are built for horse and carriage and not for large trucks and vans. And that's why this part of the city is not accessible for your regular road transport. So that makes our city a bit unique, but also a very good proving and testing ground for other solutions. To explain that in a bit more detail, we have a little video. So hopefully it works.
Elke dag is het in Utrecht een komen en gaan van vrachtverkeer. Okay. Bestelauto's, vrachtboten en vrachtfietsen. Ze brengen goederen rond die belangrijk zijn voor het functioneren van de stad. Bijvoorbeeld bouwmateriaal om huizen mee te bouwen. Levensmiddelen voor in de supermarkt. En online bestellingen. Deze logistieke ritten zorgen voor de uitstoot van schadelijke stoffen, geluid en trillingen. Het vrachtverkeer heeft ruimte nodig op de weg en op plekken om te laden en lossen. De ruimte is beperkt en die willen we goed benutten. We willen dat Utrecht een fijne plek blijft om te wonen, te werken en te verblijven. Op dit moment vervoeren we goederen al slimmer naar, van en door de stad. Zo verminderen we het aantal logistieke ritten. Daarnaast wordt de binnenstad vanaf 2025 uitstootvrij. De gemeente werkt met bedrijven, kennisinstellingen en andere overheden aan duurzame en efficiënte stadslogistiek. Hoe gaan we dat doen? We nemen verschillende maatregelen. We realiseren nieuwe oplossingen voor laden en lossen in de openbare ruimte. bijvoorbeeld in autoluwe wijken zoals Merwede. We bepalen welk vervoersmiddel waar mag komen op welk moment. Te zware vrachtwagens mogen bijvoorbeeld niet over de Utrechtse oude werfkelders rijden. We stimuleren bundeling van goederen, bijvoorbeeld via hubs. We stimuleren schonere en stillere manieren van vervoer. Bijvoorbeeld vervoer over water in de binnenstad en lichte elektrische voertuigen, zoals bakfietsen. We zetten data in voor het regisseren van stromen goederenvervoer. Zo maken we de groei van Utrecht mogelijk, terwijl vervoersbewegingen, schadelijke uitlaatgassen, geluid en trillingen afnemen.
So I realized that the people in the back probably needed to have like binoculars to read that, but hopefully this came across. So in Utrecht, we have the challenge of the inner historic city that doesn't allow your regular logistics. At the same time, we're trying to grow the city because we definitely have a housing crisis from 350,000 to 450,000 inhabitants in the next 15 years. So that's approximately 30% more inhabitants. And without active city involvement, we would also see more logistics movements, more emissions, more nuisance from noise and vibrations, and more pressure on public space. To give you a couple of figures, the previous speakers already mentioned the zero emission zone. That is currently our environmental zone, so the milieuzone, which is basically the inner historic center and this Jaarbeurs area that we are right now. That is our environmental zone currently, and 1st of January, that will be zero emission for urban logistics. We have about 10,000 logistics movements every working day. So that's about 1,000 trucks and 9,000 vans. And if we would not have active policies reducing those, we would expect about 20% increase autonomous growth in the next 10 years. So that's a dilemma because already there's limited space for urban logistics. And there are many claims on public space because my colleagues, they also want to have more green space. They want to have space for walking, for cycling, etc. And emission-free urban logistics will not only that will not solve this space issue. Well, the question there is, what is the alternative? Because we are used to moving goods by truck and van, right? And we do have some cargo bikes in the city, but not a lot yet, to be honest. And it also has to do because there's a lack of urgency within the logistics industry. Typically, they would like to do things like they've done it always. And why fix anything that is not broke? So now we are trying to break it slowly but gradually. So they have to change their organizations and strategies. We also have to realize that we as a municipality have the power of access regulations. We can say you cannot enter this area anymore, but that will harm the entrepreneur that is inside that area, like the restaurant or the shop that is doing business there. They need their goods, and if it becomes very troublesome or expensive to get their goods, that might harm their business model as well. And what we also see is that there's limited collaboration between the transport industry and governments. We're trying to fix that, but it's not easy. Also because there's quite honestly a lack of trust. So this is our SALP, the Action Plan Urban Logistics. What we're trying to do in these 4 years, we're now in the second year, we're trying to make urban logistics more sustainable and efficient by taking control. We in the Netherlands call that the regie nemen, so be the conductor or the conductor of the whole urban logistics system. And our KPIs, so what we're trying to achieve in these 4 years is 5% less logistics movements in this inner historic center, 50% less emissions, and 10% of goods being transported by boat or by light electric vehicle. And within this action plan, we have 5 pillars to achieve that, and I will share some thoughts about each of them. So, first pillar is the access policy, which gives us the most powerful tools as a city to decide what can and cannot enter the city. So in 2 months, we will have this zero emission zone in effect. It has some gradual in-growth model, so not everyone has to be zero emission from day one. But the Euro 6 engines, so the least polluting fossil fuel vehicles, they can still enter for another few years, and then they have to be zero emission. But every new vehicle that is purchased has to be zero emission. What we also try to do with access policy is give privileges. So that's the carrot and the stick method. The stick is this is not allowed, but we also have carrots for everything that we do like to see, which is clean, small, and efficient. The second pillar is creating the right space for logistics in the right place. So we've heard a lot of presentations today about micro hubs and about urban logistics consolidation centers. So at the edge of the city, we're trying to find space for those logistics consolidation centers, but also inside the city, on our own premises or maybe third-party premises, we try to earmark spaces for urban logistics, such as micro hubs. And also, we are trying to develop new neighborhoods inside the city. One is right next door. It's called Merwede. It's a 10,000 inhabitants new development that is completely car-free. So no cars inside that neighborhood. And we are thinking, okay, these people, especially when they move in, they need a lot of stuff. They have a lot of parcels. They need a new kitchen. How are we going to organize that? So in this area development plan, from moment one, we sat down with everyone involved as the internal advisors on how can you organize that. So in this area, we have drawn in 2 logistics hubs that are taking care of all the logistics for the whole area. So it has loading zones. It has dollies that you can borrow. So you can take your IKEA stuff, your Billy cabinet to your home without being able to park your car at your front door. Then the third pillar is smart logistics. Smart logistics is any digital solution that can help organize this transition and make sure that every party in the chain can communicate. And we, as a city, are also a part in the chain. There is already a lot of communication between logistics service providers, but as soon as a transport company arrives at the city, it is still a blind spot. So we are trying to make the public space smarter by giving information about all access restrictions. So we have an accessibility map with an API that planning systems can access, so they know exactly where they can get to with their specific vehicle. But also we're doing some tests right now to show if there's availability at loading zones. So that a transport company knows where can I park my vehicle, for how long, and this eventually will go to a dock management system that you will see at distribution centers, where they know, okay, in 30 minutes I can arrive at that loading zone. I have 50 minutes to unload, and then I can go to the next one. That is the vision that we would like to achieve. And we've tested it. That's actually the first picture with Coding the Curbs 2 years ago, and we're now taking that forward. Also, we try to promote bundling. So we have a specific policy in place that gives privileges to companies that bundle goods for third parties. So they gather all the goods at the edge of the city, and then they will bring it into the city with light electric vehicles, emission-free. And they can, as a privilege, use the bus lanes. So we have separated bus lanes. They can use them so they can get into the city more quickly. And they can access the pedestrianized zone the whole day as a privilege. So they are the only ones allowed to do that. But it is for them a way to be more efficient, but also as a perk, because they, basically do what we like to see. And then finally, for today, I think the most important pillar is we like to achieve a modal shift, going from unimodal to multimodal. I know it's a big topic in personal transport as well, but definitely in urban logistics is not very common. As you see at the top, this is what I call unimodal. I'm not sure if it's a word, but I guess you understand what it means. That a vehicle that is developed for the highway, basically, that has several drops, maybe 2 in Utrecht, 2 in Amsterdam, 2 in Leiden, will drive into Utrecht, do its 2 deliveries, and then drive to the next city. That is the most easy way for a shipper to do it. Not necessarily the most efficient way, but that's how it goes often nowadays. We like to see a model where these 2 shipments are delivered at a hub at the edge of the city, where it's then combined with other shipments onto a vehicle. In our case, it could be a boat. Could also be an electric smaller vehicle like a van. And then go into the city, maybe to a micro hub. And from there, it is again transshipped into an even smaller vehicle, like a cargo bike, for the last yard or last mile delivery in the city. Which sounds great, but it's also really difficult because it has extra handling. So it takes extra time, it is extra costs. A lot of data needs to be exchanged. So it's really difficult for this model to compete with the unimodal way. So I think what's needed to make that happen are a couple of things. Data exchange needs to be more facilitated. We only play a small role in that as a city. But it has to be between every player in the chain. You have to limit handling costs. So how do you do that? Maybe by containerization. And there's a couple of examples here on the floor. If you put the same container from the truck on the boat, on the bike, then it's a lot less handling and less risk. And what we can do as a city is making regular unimodal transport more expensive. So the zero emission zone, it does incur some additional costs, not a lot, but some. But if we also implement stricter window times for trucks, for example, then that will be more expensive as well. And then at some point you will come to hopefully to an equilibrium where multimodal wins. Hooray! So in modal shift, what we try to do, and if you have time to go into the city, you can visit these places. That's where we want to create quays, urban quays, to load goods from our electric boats onto the quay. And from there, you do the last mile. So these are artist impressions, but we have a vehicle already, which is the photo there at the bottom. It's called the beer boat. So it transports beer. It's our own boat. We also do garbage collection with our eco boat. But we want to do that more, and also for other goods, other types of goods like retail, like service goods, construction logistics as well. But we're not there yet. And that's how I want to finish my presentation. And it's also a shout out to the audience. We haven't solved that last mile yet. So we're looking for entrepreneurs and solutions that can do that last bit from the boat to the address of the final destination. And we are looking for partners that want to work together on this multimodal solution. And then we as a city can help find the right places, like for micro hubs, for our urban consolidation centers, and also communicate this solution to the entrepreneurs in the downtown area. So that's what I wanted to share today. And I believe now we go into the, not the one direction, but the two direction part.